compromise the long-term gains. Our waters are destroyed, and the president has said that enough is enough. Why should any of you be engaged in Galamsey? Why? Why should any of you be engaged in Galamsey?
Tonight we'll hear from the Operation Vanguard team on the ground.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And then later process to create 6 new regions hit with a lawsuit with just 3 months to go before that historic referendum. We have details of that as well, all here on Top Story. Top Story is always brought to you by Bond. It's also brought to you by Gasem Cement, the nation builder. Vodafone, the future is exciting, ready, and Nationwide Health Insurance. Now, in the last 24 hours, we're hearing of a significant number of gold metal detectors have been impounded and destroyed worth 300,000 cedis. And this is happening at a time when the local government minister has been pointing to some DCEs and MCs and politicians involved in the illegal mining trade in some communities across the country. In fact, the detectors, the gold metal detectors were being deployed in areas in the western region, Enchi, to be very specific. Now, speaking at the Interministerial Committee on Mining meeting on the roadmap to lifting the ban on Galamsey in the country, local government minister Haji Halima Mahama said there's a major drawback that against government's fight against illegal mining because of the involvement of some significant political figures, particularly people appointed by the president to head the districts in some parts of the country.
So if the president gives a direction, let's do something about this Galamsey menace. At the end of the day, it is you who will ensure that the action takes place at the grassroots level. And the reports we are getting is that some of you are messing it up. My emphasis is you were chosen, put there as district chief executive to respond to the needs of the people, work to serve the people, ensure that we improve on the quality of our people from short to medium, long term. You cannot think about the short-term gains and compromise the long-term gains. Our waters are destroyed. Our environment is being destroyed. And the president has said that enough is enough. Why should any of you be engaged in Galamsey? Why? Why should any of you be engaged in Galamsey? Why? And I want to assure you, don't think that you can do anything and hide. You cannot hide. The government has a long arm. Whatever you do, the chief of staff, the president, they will know. Even when you say a word, they will know. So you cannot do something and feel that you can sneak. And that is the head and problem of the chairman. So the reports we are getting are not good. At the right time, we will provide names to those who are not doing their best in this regard. So my message to you is that you go back home and you take this activity seriously. We are going to put the national security on you. So if you know you are engaged in Galamsey, tell yourself that today is finished. Seriously, tell yourself that today is finished. Because and you know reports come. So if we get a report about you, Galamsey, we are not even going to call you to ask you.
Well, today the Forestry Commission has been destroying gold metal detectors imported by some foreigners for illegal mining in forest reserves in Soman district. Now, you can listen to the Edu Genfi, who is a forest manager.
I will urge all communities living around the forest reserves to collaborate with us because the forest belongs to them. We are protecting the forest on behalf of the whole country, and they should lend the support because most of these activities are being spearheaded by foreigners. I've convicted 4 Guineans and 2 Burkinabes. So you could see that foreigners are taking over our forest reserves. And I'll urge all Ghanaians to be on alert and lend us the support to fight them off.
Finally, what is the level of destruction of the forest? Is it worrying?
Well, I would say that at the moment, the forest is not destroyed. But if we don't put our feet down and it continues like that, in 2 or 3 years' time, it will be very disturbing.
Well, it is also emerging tonight that some communities are now working actively with illegal small-scale miners to help them outwit the security agencies. Listen to Superintendent Raymond Kofi.
Not even in uniform, because we are just coming from these activities of these illegal miners. We've seen that when they see the police, we are coming in uniform, then they will evade, because they've put some people by the roadside that once they see you in uniform, they inform them, they alert them, and then they run away. So we have also devised a new strategy where we don't be in uniform, but then we go with civil vehicle, not in police vehicle, either pickup or whatever it is, and then we're able to get them arrested. We are collaborating with the forest officer. That is why we have almost this 19 gold or metal detector machines that the court has given an order that it should be destroyed.
And we'll hear from the Operation Vanguard team shortly, the joint military and police team set up to deal with the challenge of illegal mining in some of these affected communities shortly. But let's bring in Dr. Yao Graham with the Third World Network. Doc, thank you for your time here on Top Story.
Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you, too. We just heard the minister there at the top there talk about these politicians, DCs, MCs involved in illegal mining and that they would send the national security after them. But haven't we heard this before? I mean, isn't it time for actions that are talk and threats?
Well, it definitely it's time for action. I think for me, what is striking about the minister's thing is that it's a public admission that what many people have suspected, and also what we hear from people on the ground. But you know, in this country, the fear of the big man means that, and also the likelihood that if a small person reports it, there's not likely to be a follow-up, makes the minister's pronouncement very important. But what it also raises is that really, if big people, and we know this, that a small person is not likely to be able to move a digger, an excavator from eastern to western region on a flatbed without being stopped. It is big people who are able to do most of the large-scale illegal mining. These are criminal conspiracies with powerful people, involved at the top. And if we are serious about the rule of law and equality before the law, these guys should be arrested, because small people are being harassed on the ground. Legally mandated people, businesses are being destroyed in the name of, anti-galamsey, because the small-scale miners with licenses, their businesses have been killed by this long ban. But people who are heads of criminal conspiracies are actually in political office and are being given the chance to repent rather than being arrested to symbolize the government's real commitment to fighting galamsey. If they are going to be asked, just to simply change their ways, what is the point then, of rampaging around the country with Operation Vanguard?
But I guess there's the biggest problem, is it not? I mean, and you hit the nail on the head. The minister is talking about exposing these individuals. And from what she says, and you rightly pointed out, she admits they know the DCs and MCs involved in this. Instead of arresting them, possibly prosecuting them like they've done to the others, he's giving them forewarning that if it happens again, if you don't stop, then we will expose you.
Well, effectively then, the minister is in danger of helping to cover up criminal, activity, because it has been long known that the small people who are being harassed on the ground by Operation Vanguard are not the head of the problem. The head of the problem are big people who are the ultimate beneficiaries of the labor of those people on the ground. So if we are serious about dealing with this problem, the criminal conspiracies which are at the heart of the largest scale illegal mining in this country have to be dealt with. Otherwise, the credibility of the government's claim that it wants to end, illegal small-scale mining, where soldiers and policemen are arresting people and complaining that due process is not fast enough, but the government is going to give the really big lads, in this exercise, the chance to quietly slip away. makes a travesty of the whole exercise.
What do you think this will do to the illegal miners on the ground who probably will listen to this?
Well, those of them who clearly are connected with the big boys who feel emboldened that the government is afraid to deal with them, and that in the same way that you might get some people who are evading taxes getting away with it, while city guards are going around driving pavement, is the same kind of cycle.
What should the approach be now? I mean, we know there's a problem. The minister has admitted some of his own people, her own people, as in DCs and MCs are involved. What should is the threat to expose them enough?
It is not. And we have said that the problem of illegal small-scale mining has got multiple causes. There are the small people who are simply trying to scratch for a living. There are farmers who are inviting people onto their farms to dig them up so that they share the benefits because they are not finding agriculture profitable. There are people in cahoots with illegal foreign gangs from China and other places who are basically engaged in theft because it is stealing of resources on a grand scale. When they come with big excavators, they dig large acreage. I mean, that is massive mining. Big Ghanaians are at the center of the criminal conspiracies to the theft of our resources. To be distinguished from people in the villages and so on who are basically scratching for a living. The solution to the problem must have this multifaceted, approach. Go big and hard on the big people at the heart of the criminal rings, chiefs, politicians, business people. That has to be dealt with to break the core of the thing. Then there's a problem about unemployment, poor terms of trade, environmental education. You can't use a single instrument of the type that the policeman described, of going around, chasing, people from pit to pit, as the only solution. I read, that the BRAME, for example, turbidity has risen. And recently we've heard frustration being expressed by various people engaged in this exercise. The government keeps extending, the timeline for lifting the ban. This is the third militarized campaign against small-scale mining of this type. We must learn some lessons about the multifaceted character of the problem. And the minister's statement that there are big criminals at the heart of the problem is an important admission. What we need are steps to cut the head of that problem rather than continue to run around in circles around small people.
Dr. Yaw Grewam, I'm grateful that you join us. He is with the Third World Network live here on Top Story. And we move on to the other story today. And we're just 3 months to go before Ghana's historic referendum to create 6 additional regions. The process has tonight been hit with a lawsuit that, if successful, can derail the entire process. The suit, filed by a group of activists with the Strategic Thinkers Network Africa, is seeking to stop the Electoral Commission from conducting the referendum only in the affected regions. The EC has indicated that it will limit its soon-to-be rolled-out limited voter registration to only the proposed new regions. Well, the group says that move is not only arbitrary, but also whimsical and capricious. We'll hear shortly from the Regional Reorganization Ministry. But first, we can speak to convener of the group, Gideon Tete, who joins us on the telephone line right now. Gideon, thank you for time here on Top Story. Has this been served on? I noticed that you're suing the Attorney General and the Electoral Commission. Are they aware?
Yes. Let me say good evening to your listeners. We sued Ghana government and also the Electoral Commission because we clearly think that it is unconstitutional to only allow those who are going to be affected, as in those who are going to be in the new region, to vote. And because we think that if you read Article 4 and 5 of the 1992 Constitution, clearly it means that whatever the Electoral Commission is going to do will be unconstitutional and void. And so we are also asking the court to grant an injunction against a director at the Electoral Commission ahead of the limited registration, because that they only want to register voters in the affected regions, and which we think that clearly it is arbitrary and capricious and also violates Article 5 and also the 296 of the 1992 Constitution. And so these are the things that we are asking the court to do. And we are also asking the court not to allow the Electoral Commission to grant referendum limited to only the places that they are recommending, because we think that if it is just in Greater Accra region and they are going to cut just one, they're going to have a new region there, the whole Greater Accra will have to vote for that new region, not just the small part that's going to be affected, because clearly it's going to be whatever is going to happen in that particular region will affect people economically, socially, and politically. And so that's why we're in court.
I see, but so why? From your point is that these communities shouldn't be the only people deciding. The entire region should vote.
Exactly the point.
Exactly but what difference? What difference do you think that will make?
Yeah, well, we are saying that because in countries like Nigeria and India, it has been done that way. Because you look at the fact that in Nigeria, for instance, when they are creating a new region, in as much as the people affected are made to vote, or the state of the whole Federal Republic is made to vote, and as also is given a simple majority, it's also approved by a simple majority of the National Assembly. But in the case of Ghana, Parliament doesn't really have any power so far as the creation of regions is concerned. And so we look at the fact that if this same creation of regions is being done the same as in Nigeria and India, how much more Ghana? Clearly, creating a new region will not only affect those going to be in the new region, but also going to affect the whole region. And so we think that it's only proper that the court grants us that relief clearly against the Election Commission in terms of the elections they want to conduct, the referendum they want to conduct. And that's why we think that it's only proper for the benefit of Ghanaians.
But for the avoidance of doubt, you're not opposed to the creation of the regions?
Come again?
For the avoidance of doubt, you're not opposed to the creation of the regions by themselves?
We are not against. Oh, no, we are not against at all. We are not against. We only think that it's only fair that so far as you're going to create a new region, then that means the whole region will have to vote, because we are looking at the fact that people are going to be affected politically, socially, and economically. And so whatever referendum you want to do, you have to look at the whole of it, because clearly the people in that region are those who are going to, create a new region within. And so it's only proper. And we think that it's unconstitutional and void to only limit the vote, the referendum to only those who are going to be affected. And we think that that is why we think that the Commission of Inquiry, Justice Bobi's recommendation is unconstitutional and void.
Your position is not only to the referendum, but also to the EC's attempt to do limited registration in these specific areas. And the EC is just about rolling that out.
Yes, because we think that in as much as they want to engage in limited registration, they're only doing it against the affected region. But we think that it has to be broadened, that's the whole region. If you are doing a limited registration exercise, we know that clearly you are going to create a new region in a region. So everybody, the registration should cut across the whole region, not just the those who are going to be affected. And we also think that it is unconstitutional and void. It violates Article 45 of the 290 of the 1992 Constitution. It's also whimsical and capricious.
Thank you, Gideon Tetteh there. But so where are we in the process of creating the regions? Remember, we have about just 3 months to go before that historic referendum. Thankfully, we've just been joined on the line by the Deputy Minister for Regional Reorganization, Mr. Martin J. Mensah-Kossah. Mr. Kossah, thank you for your time here on Top Story.
Thanks, Evans, for having me.
Great. So where are we in the process?
Well, good evening to your listeners. We are at the point where I think in about 5 days from now, the Electoral Commission begins the limited registration exercise in the 6 proposed areas where new regions are to be carved. And once that happens, I think it's a 10-day exercise. Once that is concluded, then the other normal processes of registration follow. You would expect that various challenges that will be filed during the registration process will go through the adjudication or review processes. Then you will have the subsequent exhibition of the register, and then when that is done, you would have the finalized register for the limited registration. And that will lead us to the process of the referendum itself on the 27th of December.
And this limited registration and then subsequently the referendum will only be restricted to the specific areas to be affected by the creation of the new region, correct?
Exactly. That's about 55 districts.
55 districts. And I look at some of the examples, like if the new region to be created out of the Western region, you're talking about specific areas like Enchi, Sechi, Rioso, Bibiani, Jaboso. That's in the western region.
Yeah, that's about 9 districts.
That's about 9 districts. Now, why is the limited registration and the referendum limited to only these areas and not the entire western region, for example?
Well, Evans, you would appreciate that this whole process emanates from the report of the Commission of Inquiry. Now, Commission of Inquiry's work was spelled out clearly under Article 5.4 of the Chapter 2 of our Constitution. They were clothed with the power or the duty to determine the areas where this referendum must take place, the issues to be determined in the referendum, and I believe the people who must be voting in this referendum. And that is clear, but that is the only portion in our entire Constitution where reference is made to this. Chapter 5.4. And that is where you can find anything about who must vote, where the voting is happening. If that is the case, then it stands to reason that if you want to go and review your registration or your national register, and you need to the areas, the recommendations of the Justice Bobby Committee recommends that the referendum is in these areas, and so the Electoral Commission is bound to go by that recommendation, which report was forwarded by His Excellency the President to the Electoral Commission to act on.
Okay, so the Justice Roberts Commission make these determinations, but there is a sense from the suit that has just been filed that it may not be representative enough, because if I live in the Greater Accra region, and that's what the argument is, and a part of Greater Accra region is going to be carved out into a different region, I must have a say in that.
Well, Evans, as we stand now, or as things stand now, it is not subject to individual interpretation. If it's good that a group led by my brother who just spoke is gone to court, where the law can go through something, these opinions and interpretations are subject to be put before the judge and would be heard if even we get to that stage. But I tell you, it's a straightforward matter. And this process has been led by an eminent jurist, Justice Broby, who I believe would have taken this particular matter into consideration. When I say him, I mean he and his committee. And so I don't think that there's any ambiguity about it. It's a straightforward matter. But people are subject to their own, people are okay to espouse their own view, their own interpretations and understanding. At the end of the day, if we get there to the point where those must be heard and a decision made, that's fine. But I don't even think we get there. It's a straightforward matter. They have the duty, or they have the duty to establish, and that has been done. It is also very, very common with other instances, okay? Even in their own country, in the 1956 plebiscite, if you go to Sudan, almost everywhere where referendums have taken place, it is the opposite of what I just heard from him. He mentioned Sudan and Nigeria, but we have a straightforward case in the Constitution where it tells who must and who is clothed with the power to make that determination. And that determination has been made by that committee. So I think that it's a straightforward matter.
And I know time is of the essence. You talk about this whole process to create new regions begins, I guess the final lap begins in 5 days' time with the limited registration. But the challenge is, now that this suit has been filed and you're asking for an injunction, it could pose a problem with delaying this process. Is this something that the ministry has averted their minds to?
Absolutely. I mean, it's granted by the courts. Then any time might be, because we have put out a roadmap and we haven't made any, unless you want to stretch it beyond your time limit. But otherwise, then obviously it won't affect your program because some dates might change. But otherwise, I don't envisage that there is a problem. In my layman's understanding of that article, I don't think that there is any grounds for what has been done. But we'll wait to see what the court will say.
And finally, this is a pretty costly venture. Has all the monies been made available to the Electoral Commission to conduct the limited registration, the referendum, etc.?
Well, you may be surprised what exactly this whole thing about cost is. from the central point. Government is not lifting any monies anywhere to go and fund this process. No. What you do have is the individual agency budgets or institutional budgets that have been done for the year 2018, of which some room was made for the processes that we are doing. Now, you do not need to go buy equipment or do any of the preparations that you need to do specifically for this process. We are heading towards a district level election in 2019. There will be a subsequent election in 2020, general elections. The Electoral Commission per their program would have to undertake various preparations towards these elections. What we are going to do by way of the referendum just comes as a minute portion of it. The equipment are there already, so the EC is just going to use it to run. Equipment meant for future elections are just going to use to run this process. You're not buying them per this process per se. No. All you're going to do is maybe you have to get temporary staff who would man the process, both at registration and at election. But that is catered for in the individual institutional budgets, i.e. NCC had a budget, Electoral Commission had. But central government is not lifting any money anywhere. No, we are not funding this process with the taxpayers' money, as in carry money to go and do either campaign or tell somebody to vote yes or no. Absolutely not. These petitions occasioning the creation of these regions are supposed to have emanated from the chiefs and people, and we expect that they come to show their belief in it. If it is indeed their will and wish, they come to vote yes. Otherwise, no. So the government has no particular interest in making sure that everything must come to a standstill or anything must be mobilized. No, we are not doing that at all. It is just a process being run using the limited budgetary allocation or provision made in the individual institution and also the people themselves. This is the time to decide. If you believe in it as you petition, come and show it.
So the money is available for the entire process till the referendum?
Yes. I mean, these budgets have been presented to Parliament. They've gone through various stages of approval. So, yes, they are the normal approval programs that we've had.
I mean,
unless it's available.
I guess the clarity I'm asking is, we know in this country budgets are approved, but then it becomes a challenge actually accessing the funds. I'm asking whether the funds have been...
The Electoral Commission, for instance, is just about beginning this process. I want to believe that, yes, they are, because otherwise their duty or their role is the biggest chunk of this whole exercise. And to the extent that they've just begun or about to begin, then I see that budgetary issues have been sorted out.
I'm grateful that you joined us. Martin J. Mensah-Kossa is the Deputy Minister for Regional Reorganization. Newsnight starts right now.